Hi everyone, George here, and today what I'm going to bring to you is a video about a very basic question, and it's more tips and perhaps zero tactics whatsoever. There's no tactics whatsoever. It's about a very profound question that somebody asked me last week. As a matter of fact, it happens to be one of my youngest child's friends, and he asked me, George, what is squad leader? Now, although I've covered in my previous videos a minimalist uh, investment in going into squad leader, it's a very profound question. I don't think any of us took the time to answer it. More importantly, how do you get to, how do you pass the message to a child or a young teenager or a young man that is now embroiled with video games, that board games exist and that board games can be very rewarding, not only in the social context, but also in the context of learning history and learning about certain events, learning about tactics, learning about mathematics. It's very hard to get that message across. Um, and from the social aspect, I want to bring up uh, the topic of Joey B. Toons. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with Joey B. Toons, he's a social commentator on YouTube and he roasts TikTokers. And he does that quite eloquently in terms of uh, saying what's wrong with the world today. And we can make that comparison with Squad Leader and all the other board games versus the type of games that are prevalent now and readily available to our youth. Um, so I'm just thinking here for a moment. So back in the day, we didn't have the video games that are available now. And for those of us that could afford something beyond Monopoly, um, there was a world out there filled with rich games that uh, also served an educational purpose. Um, just to give you an example, recently somebody told me, because I was referring to an event in the Second World War, and he called that trivial. He called World War II, the history of World War II, trivial because it happened 80 years ago. Now, from my perspective, there are lessons learned back then that are still prevalent now. The number one lesson learned from the Second World War, I guess, is the Chamberlain effect, where when you try to appease a dictator, somebody that is brutal, somebody that is bent on accomplishing something evil, or if you try to not instigate a fight with them or try to refrain yourself from triggering him, that is a surefire way of allowing him to go ahead and executing his evil. So, not appeasing an evil dictator is one of these lessons that hopefully we did learn. So, if Joy B. Toons were to comment, I guess, instead of on TikTok, there's about today's gamers, he would probably say something to the effect of, let's say, so what are you doing now? Be prepared for the craziest and the sloppiest, I guess, most awful imitation of Joy B. Toons. Well, eventually you guys are going to get older and you're going to be in the position that I am in. And what are you going to tell your children? That you were a V-Buck millionaire? That you built these structures that defy the law of gravity and you shot your friends in the back virtually? Come on, get a life. I think that's what Joy B. Toons would say. You know, if you're going to play a game that enriches your mind, builds your math skills, teaches you at least a little bit of history, social interactions, that type of game, right? And I think that is very lacking in today's gaming world, especially in the virtual realm. Now, getting back to the original question, which is the most important one of all, what is Squad Leader? So, Squad Leader, the essential game, which the basic game that first came out was called Squad Leader, was invented by John Hill and evolved into uh, another a more advanced game with the help of Don Greenwood and a whole lot of other people. I know that Jack Green and Mike Wool were probably playtesters as well, and the list goes on. It's a game that has evolved. Now, what kind of game is it? It's a board game. Now, I've seen young folks come up to me and tell me they call them board games for a reason. Well, to each his own. I don't personally. I don't find Squad Leader boring. I find it very exciting. I find it to be a game of movement, tactics, and a bit of role play as well. And the best way to get your hands on this board game is to go to the MMP website. And when you go under Shop, Advanced Squad Leader, and go to Starter Kit, and presently they do have Starter Kit available, Starter Kit 1 available. Add to cart, it's only $20. And this is basically the infantry game, and each game is standalone. That's the best way to get started. Um, and as well, there are other kits out there, but presently they're sold out and out of print. And the other thing that you might like is if you like the Pacific version of the game, for $65, you get the Americans and the Japanese in this game. I'm not sure if that includes Chinese. Nope, Japanese, Pacific Theater of Operations, right? And then you might try different expansion packs. This is the best way to get started. Now, buyer beware. One thing really good about this game compared to Fortnite and whatnot is these modules appreciate in value. So you might be holding on to a starter kit. I'm going to use another example, Doom Battalions on eBay, and now I know there's a lot of sharks on eBay, $748, $500, $1,200. I'm not sure if they're going to get what they're asking for, but something tangible can appreciate in value, especially if it's in demand, especially if there's nostalgia attached to it. So, folks, V-Bucks ain't going to make you a millionaire. Squad Leader might, okay? And there are folks out there that also make a coffee or a pizza meal out of it by tutoring and whatnot, right? The other thing you can do is collect collectibles for relating to Squad Leader as well. And these dice are $25 American, right? Imagine somebody wanted to buy them later on and they were in good condition. They also can appreciate in value. And the worst that can happen is, right, you don't sell them, but somebody can inherit them from you, like your children. And now, you're going to ask me, how do I play this game? Where do I find opponents? The package is like, oops, sorry, right there. It's very small. You can port it to one home, to one house or another. But you can also play remotely. And you can play remotely. I'm going to give you uh, all these links so you can uh, download them yourselves, right? You can play it remotely by downloading this program called Vassal. And what Vassal does is it allows you to play the board game remotely. Now, I'm not going to give you a tutorial about how to install a Vassal. You can go over to Neil Uden's site or Google or YouTube Vassal tutorial, and there are plenty of tutorials to help you install this game. It takes some time to execute, but it's really beautiful. And if you watched all my videos, 99% of my videos um, are filmed using Vassal. So I finally got Vassal to execute and get a starter screen, and you can start a new game. And basically, all you do is select your board once you got it installed properly, and say finish, and a beautiful map pops up. Here you go, and then you can start putting counters on the board like so. Drop them in there, and start playing your game. Um, you can play solitaire, but you can also play remote. And here's my server menu. And as you can see, it's now Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, and there's quite a few people playing, which is wonderful. So there's no shortage of opponents you can find either remotely and or face to face. I know of at least 3 or 4 players around my neighborhood, close to where I live, um, and that's quite a lot, given that the game is, you know, not well known. I would say, in all circles, especially amongst the young crowd, and keeps you out of trouble. Yeah. So this is my short video for this week, and I'd like to end it by again thanking my long-standing subscribers and my new subscribers. The last video had well over 260 views, and look, it's nowhere near Joey B Tunes or GDR or the amount of views that Bella Porch gets on TikTok, but um, I still think of every viewer as an individual, and those 264 people would probably fill up the Leacock Auditorium at McGill, and that's a heck of a lot of people. I was there back a long time ago as a student, and let me tell you, that kind of audience can be very intimidating. Um, but I'm really touched with the amount of support that I'm getting from everyone. And I thank you. Have a great weekend. And I'll be coming back to you with a very insightful video. Hopefully, it will be about tips and tactics. And I'm pretty sure it has never been done before. And it's an important item to discuss. Take care and have a great weekend.